there are those who say that silent cinema is pure cinema, and I don't think they'd be wrong. It's wrong to view silent films as relics, as artifacts, as stepping stones, as just for the sake of historical knowledge. Because silent films are compelling, and they're different. They are different animals, different beasts. They are a lot more complicated, in my opinion, than most sound films. Silent pictures are incredibly interesting. You have to learn how to watch them. It's a whole new language that you're looking at here. And the evolution of a sound film is kind of sad in comparison to how silent movies eclipsed that in just 30 years. We've had sound pictures for a very long time. We had silent cinema. We had true complicated narrative silent cinema for maybe 10, 15 years. And that evolution is insane to see how far they came in such a short amount of time. But my name is Zachary Conan, and today we're going to go through what I consider to be the 7 most essential silent films, in my opinion. These aren't necessarily the greatest silent movies ever made. These are what I consider to be essential. What you should watch if you are unfamiliar with this beautiful thing called silent cinema. And starting at number 7, we're going to jump right into Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, 1927, directed by F.W. Murnau, who is mostly known for Nosferatu, but Sunrise is far better composed. It's one of the most lovely and romantic pieces of films ever made. They're in the pantheon of romantic cinema. You have Chungking Express by Wong Kar-wai, you have La Talente by Jean Vigo, and you have Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans by F.W. Murnau. This is one of the most tender films ever made, and there's so much heart, and there's so much warmth, and there's it's about taking German expressionism and making it do something wild, making it do something tender, which is a facet of that style that you didn't think was possible. From something that was German expressionism was defined by shadows, by black inkiness, and then you apply that language to Sunrise, which is about two human beings falling in love with each other, or can't help but be in love, or rekindling their love, that kind of thing. And suddenly that very gothic, incredibly German sensibility becomes romanticist. Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, absolute essential. At number 6, we got The Life and Death of 9431, A Hollywood Extra. Now, you can watch this right here on this platform on YouTube. This is a short film. This is a short surrealist film by Robert Florey and Slavko Vorkapich. It is so cool. It is so great. There is a lot of expressionism. There's also that new American surrealism. There's Dadaism. There's pre-absurdist motifs in it as well. It's very cool, very interesting to watch. One of the greatest things about silent cinema is that we had a lot of experimental cinema, a lot of surrealist and avant-garde experimental cinema during that time, and they were short films, and they were just fucking head trips. They were insane, and I really recommend that you watch this one, because this one is the most accessible out of all of those kind of mind-numbingly experimental films. You can watch it on YouTube. Definitely take a look at it. I think it's 10 minutes, 12 minutes long. It's not long at all. And it's so satisfying. It's so artful. It's so kind of moving. And it's so, I think, truthful, apocryphal of Hollywood culture. And especially of being on the fringes of it and trying to make a name for yourself. Definitely watch that film, and just a great surrealist avant-garde picture. At number 5, we have Mr. Charlie Chaplin making an appearance. We have City Lights, 1931, made in the heyday, the original heyday of talkies, where everything was which gave Charlie Chaplin a motherfucking blistering headache. So he made a silent film, which everyone was like, no, don't do that. You're not going to make any fucking money. Why are you doing that? And he's like, well, because silent cinema is pure cinema. I want to tell a real story, a real film. And City Lights is my favorite Charlie Chaplin film, not just because of that punk rock rebellious attitude that I just described, but also because I think that it's got his finest bits in it, and I think it has his most tender romance, and I really do feel like that city is alive, and cities that are alive mean a lot to me in films, and I think this is just his best outing altogether. When you put all the pieces together, it's his best. So far as the film itself, I think it would betray the film's legacy if I droned on about this particular feature, because words cannot adequately describe the majesty that is City Lights, and that's something Charlie Chaplin wanted to make perfectly clear. At number 4, we have The Passion of Joan of Arc by Carl Theodor Dreyer. Maria Falconetti giving one of the finest performances in the entire silent era to this film. This film is a film about whiteness, a film about feminine purity, about cultural morality, about sanity, about mental health, about miracles, about punishment, about torture, about psychosexuality, about whiteness. The whiteness of Dreyer. You should read an essay that Truffaut wrote called The Whiteness of Dreyer, or you should watch this video. I never know where it fucking pops up, but the link will be somewhere here, that me and my friends did in our Talking Art House series about Vampire, because we go into the whiteness of Dreyer. He was a filmmaker obsessed with suffocating you and enfolding you in whiteness. Now, is whiteness purity? Is whiteness a positive or a negative force? That's to be theorized. The only thing that you can say for sure is that The Passion of Joan of Arc is one of the most moving films ever made. One of the most moving things in the entire world. And I couldn't recommend it highly enough, higher. And you just need to watch this film. It's more than essential. It's at the... It's one of the foundations for everything that we have. You take The Passion of Joan of Arc away, and you take one of the most important bricks in this mansion that we call filmdom, and the entire thing would crumble. And remember, this isn't a list of the greatest silent films ever made in order. It's what I consider to be most essential. So at number 3, we actually have my personal favorite silent movie ever made, and I put it at number 3 because I don't consider it to be the absolute most essential movie ever, but it's King Vidor's The Big Parade, made in 1925, starring John Gilbert and Renee Adderey. It's a great World War I movie. I think it's incredibly well put together. I think it's an insanely perfect template for all future war films, but particularly anti-war films. And it's interesting because I brought up Truffaut earlier, and he has an interesting quote that I'm going to butcher right now, but basically what he says is that you can't make an anti-war film because you just end up making war look cool. And I think only 2 filmmakers have made it not look cool. And that's King Vidor and that's Terrence Malick. 70 years later, or like 80 years later, I don't even want to do that math. But King Vidor is one of those people who can make an anti-war film and have it be incredibly romantic and still be authentically anti-war. Because the best thing about the film is the romance between Adderey and Gilbert. But the most jarring thing about the film is when they actually get into the trenches, and Gilbert, there's a scene, I can never find the images or even a video from this scene, so I'm not going to be able to include it here, but Gilbert and a German soldier just had this crazy fight, close quarters, Saving Private Ryan style to the death. The German soldiers dying, and they can't speak each other's language. So all these metaphors are literal and should be very apparent. And the German soldier manages to communicate to Gilbert, hey man, give me a cigarette, light me the smoke. And they light a smoke together, but Gilbert's still pissed and slaps him and stuff, but lights him to that cigarette. And it's actually one of the most sophisticated renderings of an anti-war sentiment I've ever seen. The King Vidor was one of the ultimate masters. So far as American masters go, there was Griffith, there was DeMille, and we had Vidor. And I think Vidor was the most talented out of all of them in the silent era. This is not the last time we're going to be seeing King Vidor on this list, and we're already in the top 3. But The Big Parade is absolutely essential, and I love it to death. And there's a bubblegum moment of romance that is one of the most iconic images of romance ever filmed for me. I think you should definitely watch The Big Parade because I think it's perfect. At number 2, we have Pandora's Box, starring Louise Brooks and directed by G.W. Pabst. I love Muse pictures. Muse pictures are some of my favorite films ever. I love films that are about muses, about conjuring magic, about conjuring movie magic, about conjuring wonder from a very specific woman's form. And Pabst did that with his Lulu, with Louise Brooks in Pandora's Box. It's one of the most magical films ever made because the essence of its magic, I mean, sure, there's really interesting framing. There's a lot of interesting metaphors. The story itself is sophisticated and complex. But the true magic of Pandora's Box lies in something very not of this world. It lies in the very unusual and very hypnotic appeal of Louise Brooks and how only J.W. Pabst, and only in Pandora's Box, was able to conjure that magic and capture it on screen. Pandora's Box will seduce you in the best possible way. And it's number 2, so you really, really need to watch it. It's one of the greatest things ever filmed. And you're going to see Louise Brooks' haircut everywhere, from Anna Karina in Viva La Vie to Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction. It's also one of the most influential films ever made, and possibly the best Muse picture ever made as well. That magic was really one of a kind and truly indescribable. And Louise Brooks will always have a place in my heart, whether I want her to or not. She forced her way in there, and I'm grateful for the seduction that was Pandora's Box. At number 1, I believe this would be most essential, especially if you don't know a whole lot about silent movies, but you're interested. King Vidor's Show People. This came out in 1928, and it is remarkable. It's about making silent movies. It's a wonderful comedic romance. Marion Davies is incredible in it. And basically, you know, the artist that came out a few years ago, which I do very much like, but the artist owes everything about its grandeur to Show People. It's basically a modern retelling of Show People with modern techniques, things like that. Show People, if you don't know a whole lot about silent movies, this will make you fall in love with them. Simple as that. If you're interested in a silent movie, track down Show People by King Vidor, and you'll fall in love with the entire period forever. It is, just thinking about Show People makes me smile because it's that kind of film, and it's just that good. It works that well. Show People, number 1. Nothing else to say, just because once you see it, it will be so obvious to you why it's number 1. Take my word for it, if you are to watch any of these films on this list, watch Show People first. It's irresistible. So, honorable mentions would be stupid long. I mean, The Crowd, The Phantom Carriage, fucking, The General, oh my god, Metropolis, Mabuse, oh my god, it would be so long, I'm not even gonna do it. Potemkin, I'm not gonna do honorable mentions, because once you actually watch these 7 essentials and get a little bit more invested and devoted to silent cinema, you're gonna be like, wow, this is pointless. How can you even whittle down all of this magic into just 7? So I'm not gonna further insult the era by adding on honorable mentions to it. It's one of the most perfect, and for some reason, one of the most underappreciated eras and styles of film. Silent cinema can do things that sound films can never even do. They can do something wild. They are their own language, and it shouldn't be a dead language. It should be alive and well, because some silent films are transcendental. Some silent films can carry you away. Some silent films can make you shut the fuck up for a second. Some silent films can change your life. My name's Zachary Conan. I want to thank you for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you haven't noticed, my voice is a little weird. I've been sick lately, so that doesn't matter. Watch silent movies, silent films. Probably cure a common cold, even though that's definitely not what I got. Thank you. I'm Zachary Conan, and have a wonderful day.